Hello, everyone. Welcome to another interview with Petanque Coach. And today, my very special guest is Mr. Sean Prendergast. Sean has an amazing resume. He has pretty much won everything there is to be won, apart from one thing. The mixed national doubles, but he's won singles, doubles, triples. He's been to world championships. He's been to junior world championships. He's been to junior European championships. So, welcome, Sean.
Hi, Kev. Thanks for having me on. Looking
Uh,
forward to discussing Petanque with you.
it's an absolute pleasure, my friend. We've played together a few times and played against each other many times. And what a formidable opponent you have been in those games. And one of the things that has always struck me with your game, I'm just going to go straight into it, is your analytical mind. And because I appreciate your analytical mind and your thinking and your strategy behind the game, maybe you can tell me a little bit about where it all started. And obviously, you've done juniors and you're now in seniors, and you're a little bit away from veterans. So, yeah, tell us all. Where did it start?
Not as far away as I'd like. It's quite random how I started playing the game, but I started on the Isle of Wight, and I was lucky enough to have an excellent coach actually who noticed me at my very first competition, and I remember losing. It might have been three games actually that day. It was certainly two, 13-0. But it didn't put me off. And the coach at the time, Kev Gifford, I will name drop because he is a good player, a very good player, and we did play together for a long time. He noticed something in me, and he coached me for quite a while. He coached me for that year. I was 15 at the time, and I ended up playing in my first junior major championships. I believe it was the Europeans in Czech Republic, I think, when I was 17, and we got to the quarterfinals. It was a good result, certainly a good result. And then I played in the World Championships, I think the year after, where again we ended up losing to Madagascar, the eventual winners. Um, so yeah, I started quite young at the age of 15, quite randomly. Noticed some people playing in the local village uh, where I um, where I lived. And they're a friendly bunch, and they say, "Oh, come and have a go." I love my sports. I'm very competitive, so I had a go. Loved it, and I've been a committed petanque player ever since, shall we say?
Many years now. And
Yeah.
I won't ask how old you are now. Maybe you've been playing about 10 years.
You're too kind. No, I am close to 40, not quite 40, but close enough.
Nice. Well, and I know you have young family now as well, and we'll come on to that a little bit later. But I'm interested in how your mind has changed and your game has changed because, as I mentioned, I've always regarded you as a very analytical player, very aware of what's happening, very good tactically. That doesn't just come overnight. That comes from being in the arena, learning from others. As you say, all good coaches are called Kev. So talk me through how this has developed for you.
Yeah, so I've always been very competitive, and with that competitive nature comes a will to win, a determination. And my own view of sport, because I've played various different sports at different levels, is that it's no good, in my view, to have just a plan A. You need a plan A, B, C, D, E, and go on and on and on. And I think it's about learning to adapt in that environment, and each environment's very different. So playing a game in England is very different to playing abroad, for example. Um, but even at the more micro level, in games you need to adapt as well. So it might be that you need to be a little bit more defensive for whatever reason, or you need to go on the attack more. And it's a bit being able to read how the game is flowing at any given moment. And I do think I'm good at that. I don't know where that necessarily comes from. I don't think it's something you can learn. I think it's inbuilt in you. And I think that comes from my sporting competitive personality, really. Um, and having this strongly held belief that there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Definitely. Hervé, who we interviewed recently, talks about winning ugly and
Yeah.
sometimes just get over the line, doesn't matter how. And often some of my opponents are more interested in looking good than worrying about winning. And reminds me of White Men Can't Jump. I've mentioned it before on another interview. So, do you find that your competitive instinct can be a detriment to you, or do you always find that it keeps you at the top?
Now, that is a good question. I have found that it has often kept me at the top, but what I do think it has the danger of doing, and I've found this over the last 4 or 5 years, is that there's a balance to strike. And I think sometimes it can mean that you lose the enjoyment a little bit. And when you lose the enjoyment, the pressure can increase and all those types of things. So I think that is the danger of being too competitive. And there's always a balance to strike. It's not good to be too relaxed, and it's not good probably in the long run to be too competitive. So it's about finding that right balance. So I think it there can be some risks to it. And like I say, you just need to make sure that what's the word they say, get in the zone. Uh, and that zone isn't always easy to get into, but once you're in that zone, it's very hard to defeat the player who's in the zone, I think.
I fully agree with you, and I concur exactly with you about bringing it at different levels. I experienced that myself this weekend. Won a competition, very nice, thank you. A few pounds in my pocket, but there were games that were, shall we say, easier than you would expect, and your focus just drifts when you take things a little bit for granted. And those are the times that the wool and the rug can be whipped from under you when you lose. I recall in I think it was the first round of the main, we were suddenly 10-3 down, thinking, what is going on here?
Yeah.
So you have to be able to turn it on and
Yes, you
flick
do.
that
You do.
switch. Yeah,
And that's
that
not
only
always
comes.
easy. Not always easy, but yeah, you do.
No, no. This is the thing, and it's from experience, but it's
Mm.
also from practice in terms of the mental game as well as the physical game. Because hopefully you're like me, you agree that it's 80% in your head and
Probably
20%
more.
in
Probably more.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I absolutely agree with that. It's a very mental game, Petanque. Um, Once you've got to that certain level and you've got good ability, then yeah, you can make some minor tweaks. Of course, you can. You never stop learning, but you're never going to really lose that ability. And then it becomes a battle of wits, really, a battle in your mind.
Mm.
Um, and that's why mental coaching is just as important as physical coaching, definitely.
Yes. Something I'm working on at the moment for future videos that I'll be putting out is about the bull mind. And I've got an interesting thing that I'll reveal in future episodes that I'll
Awesome.
unleash onto the Petanque market. But so obviously you've been inspired for a very long time. You learnt how to lose at a very early stage, which then helped you to learn to win. You're still playing at a very high level. As I mentioned in the intro, you've won everything there is. What inspires you and motivates you today?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Um, there's quite a lot of factors because, like as I alluded to earlier, I've played all sorts of sports, and I'd always come back to petanque. I'd always choose petanque, and I've given some thought as to why that is. And one of the there's two big reasons. One is I see petanque as a big family, whether that's abroad or in this country. The social side of petanque is, I can't explain it really. I can't articulate it properly, but it's not, you don't get that social aspect in any other sport, not quite to the level of petanque anyway. So that's one. And secondly, the great thing about petanque is you can get to a high level fairly quickly, which is very unusual for sports. So the chance of becoming a professional footballer, slim to none, really, if we're being honest. Same with cricket, any type of sport like that. Whereas petanque's very different. If you think about it, I started when I was 15. I was playing in the World Championships when I was 17. There's not many sports where you can get to that level so quickly. And I think you can maintain it at a high level. So with most sports, when you get to a certain age, your ability starts to decrease. That's less so in Petanque. So you can play at a high level probably into your 60s, maybe even your 70s, which again, I think is unique compared to other sports. So I think that keeps me motivated. Is I can still play at that high level. If I was to go out and play football now, they'd run rings around me. Whereas it's very different with Petanque. You can play at a high level for many, many years. Um, and there's always new stuff to learn. There's always new things to win. Um, so I think in that sense, Petanque is a wonderful sport for all ages, which is unique. Certainly is unique.
Exactly. I mentioned in another interview I played recently against an 86-year-old Algerian who had a serious injury where he was shot and could only hold the ball with literally three fingers because his other fingers were permanently attached to his wrist
All right.
because of this injury in a war. And at 86, he looked 56, and he played every single day, 4, 5 hours a day, kept him alive, kept him young, kept him social. Had a
Yeah,
few beers at lunchtime, slept a little, came back and played in the afternoon.
I think a really good example of that, and I do think it's worth mentioning. He's sadly passed away now, but Lee Jameson, what a player!
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't remember what age he was when he did sadly pass away, but he was an older man, and yet he could perform at such a high level. In fact, he probably was one of the best shooters in the country at that time still. And he must have been well into his 60s at that point. So it's there's some really good evidence in this country of players who did and are still performing to that high level at quite an old age. Yeah.
Well, we're quite lucky with the veterans that we have
Yeah,
now who were
indeed.
seniors only recently and who are doing very, very well. I'm 56 now and still playing at a high level and still winning and still loving the game and putting things back into it like this now. So, um,
Yeah.
you've played in many matches. I'm sure many of them have been incredibly memorable. Do you have a particular shot or a particular match that you can just describe it like that, as if we were there right now?
I think probably my second national doubles title with David Plumoff comes to mind. Um, because now Dave is one of, if not the best shooter in the country. But at the time, he pointed for me. This was back in 2012, and I was the shooter. Not throughout the day, but certainly in the afternoon. And I think at that point, no, in fact, I'm certain at that point he hadn't won anything of note at that point. And I'd only won perhaps one other title before that. I think that's right. Um, so there was a lot of pressure and nerves on us as we got through the day. Didn't have any expectations on us to win that tournament. And then slowly but surely, last 16, quarter final, oh hello, semi-finals. And we beat a really good team in the semi-finals of Dean Seville and Scott Ashby, who are obviously another couple of really top players in this country. Um, and then we got through to the final, and I would say that's one of the best uh, moments of shooting that I've ever had in a final in my whole career. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I think I maybe missed two ball in the whole game, and I was shooting a lot. Um, and I just remember after that moment, getting to the latter stages of got big competitions more and more often. So it was something personal to me in sense of it kind of kicked my Petanque career onwards. But also on the other side, the reason I remember it is because I remember thinking that will have helped somebody who is now one of the best, if not the best shooters of the country, to develop his game. And Dave went on and on and on after that year to get just better and better. So that really sticks in my mind.
I think it's lovely when you see people come from this level, suddenly they
Yeah.
jump and suddenly they're through the roof. And it's interesting you said that you were the shooter because I've seen you in all kinds of positions, point, middle, shoot, not quite sure, mix it around, move about. you're a very versatile player. What's your preferred position now?
Oh, what a question. Uh, Pointer probably now. Um, However, I do hope that changes actually. So you're right. I am your, I think my friends call me the James Milner of Petanque, in the sense that I am the utility player, someone who can play at any position and is quite comfortable at playing any position. I'm most comfortable nowadays at point, um, but I do want to develop into becoming a middle again because that was my favorite position back in the day. So one of my favorite teams to play in was me, Sofiane Luciani, and Matt Eversden, and that's when I played middle. And we were a very successful triple. I don't think we lost for something like 18 months. And that's when I played middle. So that's the position I'd like to get back to. But at this, as it currently stands, I feel most comfortable at point.
Right. And I know you have in your toolbox a variety of shots. You can plombe when needed, roll when needed. You've got a whole arsenal, as Simon said. It's like Simon Bird, who I interviewed. It's like a set of golf clubs. You bring that club out when you need to, and I think you're fully equipped with a whole set of golf clubs, shall we say? It's
Yeah.
it's interesting because with your analytical mind and with your ability to play so many different shots, do you find a conflict where on each shoulder there's things saying, shoot, no, point, no, don't, yes, do. Do you find that chasing two rabbits, or are you very fixed on your choice of shot?
Oh, I would say the former, and that's never been a problem for me up until recently, probably the last 3 or 4 years, where that has caused a problem for me from a mental perspective, which I'm working on changing. But yeah, I think because I'm quite adaptable, you do always have the thought that there is more than one shot available in a given moment. And often it's more about execution than anything, to be quite frank. Um, However, I have recently got more into a defensive mindset, and I think there's two ways of looking at that. One is it's a reflection on the game in our country, perhaps, but the second way of looking at that is actually, in many ways, you. This is my view. You win more games through good pointing than you do through good shooting. Certainly in England, I think that probably changes as you go abroad, but certainly in England, you win more games through good pointing than you do good shooting. So, of course, when you're in that moment, if you've got a ball, say, I don't know, a foot and a half, 2 foot away, yes, I think you do have both in your shoulder because you think, well, actually, I could outpoint that, and the chances are, if we keep outpoint that, we'll probably win the end. So you do have those conflicting thoughts, certainly in this country. I think those thoughts become less of a conflict when you are playing more attacking teams who are likely to shoot you off the park, perhaps. But in this country, yeah, you do have those. You definitely do have those conflicting thoughts. I do. I don't know. Some other players may be different, but I trust my pointing a lot. So if there's a ball that's a foot and a half away, I do believe that I'll outpoint it. So that's where the conflict can sometimes come in. Yeah.
I think I would believe you would outpoint it as well. So you
Yeah.
mentioned something that I absolutely love just then, that you're working on your game. I'm working on my game all of the time and put an awful lot of effort and practice and mental application to my game in recent years. So tell me a little bit about your training back in the day when you were young, your training when you were hitting your national titles, and the training regime now, and what it involves and how it's evolved.
Yeah. So I mean, when I was young, to be honest, you don't really think about it. You just go out there, and that's the joys of being young. You play without any fear. You're as confident as you can be. You don't have any other stresses or worries in your life generally. like a family, work, all that kind of stuff. So you can just go out there quite honestly and just throw your ball and it's all wonderful. Obviously, that changes as you get older. And then I do think you do need to develop more of a training routine around that. I think sadly, the truth of the matter is I didn't concentrate that on that enough during my late 20s, coming into my mid 30s, late 30s. And that has probably had an impact on me in the last 3 or 4 years. So, from a training perspective, in terms of actually playing, I've got a petanque piece in my back garden, so I'll go out there and I'll throw a ball. And normally, my training routine is fairly structured in the sense of I won't just go and throw ball. I do try and visualize myself in a match position, uh, treating practice seriously. Having said that, I do think that what I have learned in the last 3 or 4 years, and my bit of advice, if anyone listen to this, if there's one bit of advice they take away from this, is do concentrate on mental training. And mental training doesn't have to even mean picking up the petanque ball. Doesn't. It can be things like meditation. It can be things like um, reading a good sports book. It can be many different things, whatever fits with you best. But really spend some time thinking about your mentality and how you deal with pressure situations, how you deal with performance anxiety, um, and being open and upfront about that so you can move forward with it. Because my view is, I don't mind admitting it. I'm happy to admit it because everyone's seen it. Over the last 3 or 4 years, I've suffered with performance anxiety, which has caused uh, some physical, what they essentially yips in my petanque. And I'm constantly working at that. I'm still working at that now. What it really highlighted to me is I can't be the only one. I fail to believe that I'm the only one in Petanque out of thousands of members who doesn't suffer when under pressure or performance anxiety. And to those people out there who do, you can get through it. You can there are skills and tools available to you to make you a better player mentally. And once you've got that mental aspect right, the rest of it really flows. So that would be my bit of advice. And if anyone wants to contact me outside of this, in terms of that, I can offer some signposting, should we say?
That's a brilliant share, and thank you for being open and honest about it. A lot of people withhold things that other people might see as maybe a weakness or a flaw or something to a pain point to press. As I mentioned, I'm working a lot of videos for that. Hopefully, some of what I say may help you. It may not, but certainly visualization,
Yeah,
breathing, meditation, phrases that you say to yourself, calming things just to take things down a notch or two, just to, and as you said, enjoying the game and enjoying the shot. It's it's funny because this pressure, the majority of it's self-imposed. And
yeah,
it's
it's
yeah,
it's almost your subconscious is telling you something that you've ingrained into it that isn't true, and that can be changed, and it can be changed through some of the techniques you've mentioned. Certainly, in fact, all of the techniques you mentioned are really good ones, and I would just urge people who may be struggling in that sense to do some work on that, because everybody or most certainly most people will suffer from some sort of anxiety or pressure at any given moment in their life, even if it's not petanque related. So all those types of things can seriously help with performance, definitely.
fantastic. So, I mean, one of my questions was, have you overcome a significant setback or an injury? But this obviously is a setback for you because you've come from, as you mentioned, being a free player, playing for fun when you were younger and smashing things and being the top shooter and winning national titles. And now it's this almost, I'm replicating something, but almost like a reticence to play with flow because it is the higher, exponentially high flow state that we're all looking. So at the moment, and looking at you in the past and looking at you now, pressure situations for you, are they mostly internal, or is it a difference in the game, as you mentioned, with the will not to lose rather than the will to win? What's your take on it for you?
Yeah, well, my take on it is uh, complex because actually I don't know the answer to that. And the reason I don't know the answer to that is because the physical symptoms are so overwhelming in that moment that my mind more or less shuts down. So I've been asked this quite a few times, and I don't know the answer because I can't tell you what's going on in my mind at that given point, and that's because of the overwhelming physical symptoms. Um, and I've been working on that for some time, and I feel like I'm moving towards a solution actually recently. Um, so I'm sorry to say I can't give you a very good answer to that, because, like I say, anyone who's suffered from anxiety will know that at times the physical side of it becomes so overwhelming that actually, if you were to ask somebody when they're suffering anxiety what's going on, they probably wouldn't be able to tell you most of the time. And that's how I feel at points. How this has arrived, and that I don't know the answer to that. If I'm being quite honest, I don't care. I just want to get it fixed.
No need to go to the
So
root of it.
yeah, basically, I just want to get it fixed. Yeah.
A very, very good friend of mine who unfortunately is deceased and was one of my major partners and teammates when I was younger, used to say to me quite a simple phrase when I used to suffer. He used to say, "We're not playing for a row of houses."
Indeed, indeed.
And it literally, I used to think, it's just a bloody game.
Mhm.
It's a Tuesday night. It doesn't matter what, this isn't the World Championship. This isn't life or death. And it just diffused things. I don't know if that helps or not, but it was just so talking of that, teamwork. Obviously, you've
Mhm.
had some phenomenal teams in the past. You've mentioned some great players that you've played with. Sophia, you've mentioned David, you played with me, you know.
But
It's what what's the importance of teamwork for you, and what do you look for in a teammate?
so the importance of teamwork is huge in my view. Camaraderie, togetherness, understand each other's games is massive. This is one of the reasons I won't go talk any more about this because I know this is a controversial subject, but that is one of the biggest reasons why I'm against selection, actually, particularly in amateur sport. Because my view is that the things we've just talked about are absolutely crucial if you're going to be successful. Um, and sometimes it's not obvious whether there's going to be that gel or camaraderie or whatever it may be. And you figure it out over time. Some teams work, some teams don't. Um, but it's just understand each other's game inside out, each other's personalities, how you all operate. And I think without that, it's very difficult to be successful. It's my view. Um, And in sports, sometimes people just don't gel. You could get on with somebody wonderfully, but you just might not gel in that sporting arena, and that's just the way it is. And I do think that can be figured out quite quickly. The only thing I will say that happens a fair amount in Petanque, particularly in this country, which I think is a shame, is I do think some teams give up too quickly. As a unit, they'll have one bad competition or whatever it is, and then they'll move on to the next team. I think that does a disservice to um, our sport, actually, because I think there are some teams that if they plugged away and kept at it, would be hugely successful. So I do think we need to learn to be, what's the word? We need to learn to live with the highs and lows a little bit more of sport because you're not going to win all the time. It's impossible. So but teamwork is absolutely crucial. What do I personally look for in a team? So for me, I like pragmatic people. So I struggle in overly attacking teams. Um, because that's just not me. So I like people who are open-minded to being pragmatic. And believe it or not, Sofiane Luciani was very open-minded to that. I mean, he did like to go for some weird and wonderful shots at times, certainly, but he was very open-minded to playing a an English game, as I like to call it. And he was okay with that. I like adaptable players, people who can move into different positions if needs be. Matt Eversden is a perfect example of that. He was never frightened of taking on a shot, and he was an out and out pointer. But if needs be, he'd go into middle. If there was a shot for game, no problem at all. He had no qualms about it. So I like adaptable players. Um, and I do like quite focused, borderline intense players, I guess. So some teams like that jovial, joking around, like blah 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 blah. That's not me personally. I like that kind of calm seriousness. That's how I operate in teams that are like, right, this is serious. Maybe not to an extreme where people are getting angry or stuff like that. Certainly not. But in just taking the match very seriously, um, and making it a proper game, if you like. So that's my preference, and everyone's different in that respect. I know some people who couldn't play in those types in that type of environment, um, and that's how you end up choosing playing with the players that fit theirs and your personality, I guess.
It's an interesting point that you've raised with that wonderful synopsis there is the word serious, because there are different levels of the game. And
Mm,
sometimes those of us who play at a higher level are labeled with being too serious.
mm,
We're taking the game. We know you're going to beat us. People say, "Why are you so serious?" But in my opinion, this is for me, I don't want to dumb my game down to make you feel better. I want to play at the highest level for me, whether it's Tuesday night and I'm shooting a cochonnet and there's no need for me to shoot a cochonnet, but I know at the weekend I might have to. So I try to raise my game, but I do get labeled with that very serious superlative that is not always relevant, I think. How do you find that? Do you find you get labeled with that by people, or do you adapt to the situation?
yeah, again, I think I'm quite good at adapting to the situation because I think, and again, it's difficult. But the reason I think being serious in the game is important, maybe not for everybody, but for a lot of players, is that's where you're most likely to find yourself in the zone. It's very unusual that it does happen, but it's very unusual you'll find players who get into the zone by being jovial or overly relaxed. I think that's few and far between. So again, but I think it's been able to find that right balance. So I think you can be serious without being, or people perceiving, should we say, and I'm not saying this is the case for you at all, but I think what people often do is they perceive seriousness for being disrespectful sometimes. And I think that's sometimes incorrect. And other times it may well be correct, but I think that is what sometimes people can perceive. But I think the way around that is by knowing your environment and what you're actually playing in. So playing seriously is different, in my view, from being, for example, a stickler for the rules. Yeah. So if you're playing in a big competition, of course, the rules to the letter may well be important and all that kind of, that's fine. But if you're playing in a league match or a friendly competition, then I think you gain that respect by, yes, being serious when you play your shot, fine, but also by showing that sportsmanship, if you like. And I've seen examples where people don't do that. And I think that's where sometimes the problems lie. And I'm not sure that's helpful for the game in those scenarios. But playing seriously has never caused me any particular problem. Um, and I would encourage everyone to play seriously because that's where you end up performing your best.
It's interesting because there's a very, very fine line between
Yeah.
being serious and professional and just tipping over into arrogance and showmanship or egotistical. And one of the things that's the corollary of that is when people are too jovial, too relaxed, and can't get into that. I had a particular situation. I was coaching someone, and they were so intent on being liked by everyone that they couldn't bring their game. And I remember getting particularly upset and saying, "Come on, are you a shooter? Just hit the damn ball. Stop larking and joking around." And I really affected my game, but it was probably a little aggressive at the time. In fact, it was, but I wanted to get the best out of this player, and the only way I could see to get the best was to almost shock them out of their let's all be fun. Because sometimes it's a fun game, but when it matters, you have to be in that zone. Talking of the zone, what does the zone look like to you? The magical
Oh,
zone. What is it?
that's a that's a personal feeling to everyone. Me personally, it feels like I'm in a cocoon. So no, I can't feel or see or anything around me. I am in that moment, in that shot. It's like a tunnel vision, if you like, when nothing else matters around me at all. And I just feel like if I'm shooting, the ball feels like this big. Um, and you kind of feel untouchable, if you like. Um, and there's lots of stuff going, visualization going on in your mind. It's really hard to articulate, but for me, that's what it feels like, a cocooned tunnel, if you like. Um, I'll tell you, going back to the other point, which kind of links in with this, if anyone wants a good example of, because you're right, there is a fine line, and not we don't sometimes get it right. Um, but I tell you, who does get it right more often than not. I've always watched, and I've always the body language, that seriousness, but not being too serious. I think he gets the balance almost perfect in my view, certainly more often than not, if you watch him play, is Jason White. I really respect that about Jason because he plays in a way that you can see and visualize him still having fun, but he's still taking the game seriously. And I think he's a really good example, actually, of striking that right balance. So if anyone gets a moment, watch Jason. You'll see what I mean.
It's interesting because I interviewed Jason the other week and we discussed exactly this. And he said in the interview, if you haven't watched it, please go. It's a great interview. He said he gets labeled with being too serious. So even he
Mm.
has that situation where should we say, more fun people who are looking to just enjoy the game are seeing him as too too serious at times. So, um,
Mm.
do you know what the best thing when you describing the zone there with your blurred out background, which is great. When you held your hands like this, everything was wobbling. It was like the Twilight Zone. I was like, oh,
It's
I
on
get
purpose.
Sean's zone.
Yeah, I did that on purpose.
It was like you were like a Jedi.
Yeah, I wish that would be good, wouldn't
Sorry, a little bit off the wall there. So,
it?
um, we've discussed a lot of things, teamwork and games and training. Lifestyle. I said I would come back to it. You have a young family now, you have a lady, you have your work, you're very involved in everything that you do. It's obviously it's a great profession. You bring an awful lot to the community. How do you balance petanque, life, fatherhood? Eh, Tell me.
Not easily. It's the answer. It's tricky. It's difficult. So, and that can be frustrating because I can't play as much as I would want to. And I don't play as much as I would want to. So that has an impact on your game, certainly. I think on both the physical and mental side of that. Um, so then again, you have to find ways of adapting. Um, what it means is, I was actually having a conversation about this with somebody where things were quite free flowing and easy to win a tournament. Easy is probably not the right word. That may sound a bit arrogant, but you know, easier, um, then that's no longer the case. So now, because I'm not playing as much, I can still win stuff. So I have done over the last couple of years, but it's a grind, it's a drag, it's hard work. Um, and that is because my life is busy and I can't keep up with those who play daily, every week, week in, week out. I just can't do that. So then you do have to find different ways to get over that line because what happens is, and it would happen to anyone in sporting world, is you lose that edge. You can't really get away from that. So then you just have to discover ways to get over the line. Because what happens is when you're playing regularly, you just get that little edge, whether it's a couple of percent here or there, and you lose that as you're not playing as regularly. But I think you can overcome that if you recognize it and do find ways to adapt. Which comes back to one of our original conversations about adaptability. And I would say that's one of my biggest assets. Most, if you, and I say this quite openly, I mean, and I'm not saying it as if I'm a bad player because I'm not. But I think if you said to people, if people knew how much I'd won in Petanque, I think it would surprise them because although I have ability, I've won more than perhaps my ability suggests. And the reason for that is finding those other ways to win, like we went back to originally. And that's my biggest asset. The only problem is with my life as busy as now, I really have to work at that even more. So, and it's draining. It's difficult. It's tough.
And maybe contributing to the mental
I'm
side
sure. I'm sure.
because
Yeah.
your brain is used to a certain level of play. And when suddenly that changes, even in the slightest, your brain wants to get back to homeostasis of I'm a winner, I'm the best, I don't miss what's happening. So it's like you
Yeah.
question yourself. It's just an observation. So what's your long-term goals in the game and what sort of legacy, if we can talk legacy at this young stage in your life? Obviously, you've got a young family. Are you going to introduce the
Yeah, I'd
game?
love to. I'd really
Yeah.
love to. I don't think my 5-year-old is that interested at the moment. But maybe as she gets older, she will be. But yeah, I'd love to introduce them to the sport. My long-term goals, well, yeah, I do have some long-term goals. My short-term goal believe it or not, in the moment, is to enjoy Petanque more. I want to enjoy Petanque more. That is my short to medium term goal. My long term goals, my big, one of my big long term goals is to win the national mixed up.
The
So then I
only
can say,
thing that's eluded you.
then I can say I've done the clean sweep, which I would be quite proud of because I bet there's not many people who've done the clean sweep. I suspect there aren't many. So that is one thing I would love to achieve at some point. Or that shouldn't really be a long-term goal, to be fair, but it might be. And then I have two other long-term goals: is to represent my country again, either worlds or European level, um, and also to represent my country in the singles, doubles, and mixed doubles. If I could do those two things before I ever retire from Petanque, I'd retire a happy man, I think.
Well, ladies, Sean is looking for a partner.
I am.
Leave a comment.
Although I may already have that fixed. So
That's brilliant. So, couple of little things as we sort of wrap this up because I'm conscious of your time and I'm really appreciative of your time with your youngster. Or one thing I'll say on that, in France, they introduce them at the age of 3, and then
mm,
they're seriously training at the age of 6 because they need to get them before the age of 7 to get them to stay with the game for the whole of their life. It's very structured. I have a
mm.
French license. I play in France. I'm learning all these little tiny things. We think let's not get them involved, but no, they are involved. So I got thrashed recently by a 7-year-old who it was quite embarrassing.
Some
But
of
he,
some of them in France are incredible, aren't they?
yeah,
Absolutely incredible.
he didn't miss the ball the whole match, and I didn't play badly. So, um, secret tip between you and me, forget everyone else. What what secret tip could you quietly share that is something you keep to yourself and don't really discuss apart from those in your inner circle, maybe?
Oh wow. Oh, I should have prepped for this one. Secret tip. Do I even have a secret tip?
You've got one, I know you do. It's you just this is why it's secret and you keep it to yourself.
I don't know. It's not secret. No, it's not. It's not secret. But I will say this: don't be frightened what other people think. And I'm going to explain what I mean by this. So, I am known for being a good scoot shooter. Okay, and my view on this is that people are often scared to play that shot because they don't want to be thought of as somebody who just trundles it on the floor, for example. So, although it's not secret, what I would say to people is use it when it's makes sense to do so. Use it and use it wisely because it's a really important shot on certain pieces. I've won competitions by doing that. And that doesn't mean I can't shoot ball to ball. I just know that's going to achieve the best outcome. So if you can see a shot that will achieve the best outcome, but it might not be pleasant on the eye, do it. It's what I do.
I'll let you in on a secret. I was filming in France recently. Department doubles championships. Steve Dakin lost in the final. Best achievement in France I think I've ever seen.
Wow.
The main pitches were scoot shooting pitches. You have the best in Normandy, phenomenal players, never miss. On that pitch, every single one of them was playing a scoot shot.
Yeah.
No ego, no problems. They can all, every one of them shoot ball to ball,
Mhm.
but they just said adapt, adapt the shot, get rid of the ball, no ego. We do well, we move on. Then we're on the really tough terrains where we have to shoot ball to ball. And this
Yeah.
was 400 teams, everybody doing, 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 bang, doing, 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 bang. And if you
I've
put
seen
that
the
in,
same too.
yeah. So
Yeah.
this, it's a shot. There's nothing wrong with a shot, as you say.
Sometimes it gives you a better outcome. So I'll give you a really good example of this. In 2019, I won the Champions of Champions doubles with Kai Sheffield. He pointed excellently that day. But the whole morning and part of the afternoon, we were playing on the top piece, and it made no sense to scoot on the top piece because you didn't really get a good outcome for it. So shooting ball to ball fine, we were winning comfortably. And for some reason, Petanque England said, right, semi-final's going to be on the bottom piece. We hadn't played one game on the bottom piece. And the bottom piece at the time has changed slightly now, but it was as flat as a pancake. And if you were just this far in front, you'd bounce over.
Mm.
Okay. Whereas if you were short, like super short, you could get some spot carrows. And I said to the opposition, I said, look, guys, I'm really sorry. This is going to really frustrate you, but I'm going to scoot against you. And you could see their faces drop. I said, because this is the best shot on here. And anyway, we started off the game, and I'm not exaggerating here. I think my first 7 shots were spot carrows along the floor. And the shooter that was playing in the other team, he was actually releasing the ball quite nicely, but virtually every single shot, he was landing about this far short. Decent shots, but they were just going boing, boing, and just bouncing over. And I was getting fantastic results, just rattling them down the floor. So there's a good example of you get on some piece, you'll get a better outcome by doing that than you would otherwise. So yeah,
What's your secret to the release then? Because with scoot shooting, you're slightly here, slightly there, your ball's going all over the place. It's like they say with an aeroplane, if you're 0.005% off, it's the difference between going from, say, London to Scotland and London to Northern Ireland. It just takes you, it's a very
it's a
fine
one.
line.
It is. It's a wonderful question, and that's why a lot of people find scoot shooting difficult because most petanque players, certainly the ones I know, will either deliberately or most of the time inadvertently play with some sort of spin on their ball. The way they hold it will either come out to the left, come out to the right. I am lucky in the sense I throw it very straight. So I play with almost no spin whatsoever. Dave Hoff, my best mate, will always comment. He said, I've never seen someone throw it so straight. So I think the people who are best at that type of shot are people who just throw it very, very straight. That's what it boils down to. But that is actually, believe it or not, which is quite weird in a ball sport, there are a lot of people who do throw with side inadvertently. I think you might throw with a little bit of
I do
side actually.
a little bit
Yeah.
aside. Yeah. Probably because I saw a really good player doing it once, and I thought, I really like that. I'm going to try and model that. And I distinctly remember on the pitches in my parents' pub, we had this pitch that sloped like that. So I had to become very adept at spinning it up the hill, and that was how
Okay.
we won. And it just stuck. And I've been working on it to change it because I can spin both ways, but throwing straight, I have to. That's what I have to work on.
Yeah, and you're not alone in that. There's so many Petanque players who throw with some sort of inadvertent side, definitely.
Yeah, we see it a lot in the female game where they're releasing out the front of the hand and the side and the top spin. I've noticed it so many times and don't quite know why. Because you certainly don't see that in France. There's literally none of the females play like that. So
Mhm.
a couple of quick final questions. Favorite brand of boule, make and model, and why?
Wow, my favourite ball no longer exists, which is a shame. But I
What
used to
was that?
love.
Let me guess. A
Uh,
old ATX.
no, 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 Super Coup with the spirals. I'm
Oh,
not sure why they got rid of them. Actually, I used to love the Obert Super Coup, um, but they're no longer in circulation. So now I use CXQ,
okay.
Obert CXQ, semi-soft. I have also tried, which they were nice ball actually. They were just a little bit too big for me, sadly. But I would say they're definitely a good set. Is Balenciaga,
Yep.
but my go-to would be CXQ.
Okay. So in terms of a brand, Obu is
Oh,
that your favorite brand? Okay.
yeah.
So we've had a couple of controversial bits. Dream team, apart from me, UK and international, alive or dead. Who would
Oh,
you who
wow.
would you pick? It doesn't have to be people you've played with, or it can be.
I'm going to do it this way. So my historical dream team would be me, Sofiane Lachani, and Matthew Eversden. Uh, although you didn't make it clear whether I could choose foreign players. I'll come on to that anyway. And
Second,
then my
that's your when you're abroad team.
yeah, yeah, my English dream teams are that Sophia, and my current dream team, the team I would enjoy playing with as it currently stands, is Dave Hoff, Jack Blows, and myself. And if I had to fit in a fourth, it would probably be Matt again. But my favorite, I'm not going to say dream team, but my favorite foreign player, and has been for many years. And I don't ask me why. I don't know why. I think I like his demeanor, his body language, the way he throws the ball. Is Susho. I love Susho.
Yeah.
I love Susho.
He's What I love with Susho is he is the clutch player. He just
Yeah.
brings the gold when everything is against him. And he played a scoot shoot to win a massive tournament last year, if you
Maybe that's
recall.
why I love him.
I think it was 12 all, and he suddenly brought a scoot shoot out of nowhere, and it was spot carry, and everyone went, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
So listen, Sean, thank you so much. You've brought some absolute gold. It's been my absolute pleasure chatting to you, seeing if I can extract those goals with you, and having you being open and honest, and that is endearing not only to me, but I'm sure to the many people who are going to watch this. So if it's okay with you, we may have a follow-up. Let's see.
Yeah.
I'll put this
I'd
out.
be I'd be absolutely keen to certainly do the follow up if you're going to do any mental side of things. But
Absolutely.
Joe, so I'll be certainly happy to do that. And thank you for having me on.
It's my absolute pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you on the piste.
Soon. Cheers.
Cheers, buddy.
Okay.